Today's lecture is on creating new documents, changing your settings for those documents, and saving either to the PCs at school or to your desktop at home or to your flash drive. I'll be showing you how to save backwards for an earlier version in case you have a different version that you're working on at home and you want to go into the labs and also work in there. Okay, so let's get started. Locating the software on a Mac. Generally speaking, the computers at school you'll find have the dock here with all the different software located at the bottom or possibly even on the side panel. On the PCs, this is just a picture of like an example of what a desktop might look like at school. As you know, you already know how to log in. You would log in as the NMA student using the COA password. You would go into the Start menu, and then under All Programs, it should be listed, okay? And you're going to want to select Adobe Illustrator 6. Now, similarly, you may see these icons, the shortcuts for the softwares directly on your screen, in which case you could just directly click on those and it will give you access to the program. Okay, so let's go ahead and close that up. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and start the software so that we can create a new document. We're going to go down to the doc palette, just click on it, and it'll open up the program. Yours is going to take a little while to load. To create a new document, what you want to do is go to the panel at the very top to the File menu, and you want to select File, and you want to create a new document. Okay, a palette will appear, and this is your new document palette. What you want to do is, I like to name things with my name and my last name, and then if this is just a test or a study, I like to title it as such. So this one I'm going to call I led Garcia, and then testing new document. Custom settings. What this does is it allows you to pick from presets, print media, web media, devices, film and video. And what it does, it has some embedded settings that are particular to that type of device. So for example, print usually deals with 300 resolution. A web file would deal with 72 resolution. Print documents would be normally any given size that you specify based on what size you need something to print. And web files might be more specific to the resolution of screen monitors, like 800 by 600. Okay. Number of artboards. So Illustrator now has the capacity to do multiple artboards, they call them. It's similar to the idea of multiple pages. However, they don't function exactly like multiple pages would in a document. So while Illustrator has the capacity to do this, it's not really a layout software such as InDesign. This is not for designing books. Okay. Spacing, we're going to go ahead and ignore this one, and columns. Okay. Size, this one is where you can specify a custom size. Now you can go in here and choose from different presets, like letter is going to give you an 8.5 by 11. Legal is going to give you, I believe, an 8.5 by 14, and tabloid is going to give you an 11 by 17. Okay, so I'm going to get you used to starting to work with an 8 by 10, since that's what we'll be using for our final project. The reason we're working in this is that in the event that you ever wanted to display this in a gallery or in your home, you would easily be able to frame it in an 8 by 10 frame. Okay. Units, now by default you're probably going to be set to points, but I like to work with inches, especially when it's something that I'm going to be printing. So I do inches, not to mention they're more familiar to us. Orientation, you can click whether you want something to be a portrait, that means standing up, and then there's landscape, and which you'll notice it'll change the settings here under the width and the height according to the orientation of the page. So this is a page that is, wider than it is tall, and this one, a portrait, is taller than it is wide. Okay, bleeds, we don't need to worry about this. You'll notice that we are in color mode CMYK. That means that we're going to print this out on paper. It's not for the screen. Screen would be RGB. That the PPI, or the resolution, is 300, which is appropriate for something that is going to be printed to paper, as opposed to on screen being 72 DPI for like the web. and align to pixel grid no. So we're going to go ahead and click OK. And now we have a new document. I am going to go into this rectangle tool here, and I am going to just draw a rectangle. And now I can see that I have something on my page so that when we close a document and open it back up, we know it's the document that we saved. If we just want to save this document, what we would need to do is do a file, save as. This will allow me to specify where I want to archive my file. Like I'm going to select the desktop. What you'll notice is that there's this save folder. This is the save folder that you should find on the desktop of the computer labs. And this is where you want to store things if it is that you are going to be leaving things in the lab, okay? But always make sure to also back up to your flash drive. Just because it's in the lab, don't assume that it's going to be there. It's on an honor system, so people can come in there and delete your stuff. So you want to make sure that you back them up to your flash drive as well. Okay, now in the save folder, what you want to do is you want to create a new folder. You can easily create a new folder by clicking this button here. Once I've selected save folder, I can click new folder here, and I can create a folder with my name. I like to put don't delete, just to kind of remind them. Okay, now once I'm selected in that, because I named that file when I created it initially, it automatically names it for me. And one more thing I want you to notice though is that there's this .ai file extension. Illustrator saves their file formats as .ai. That is for Adobe Illustrator. Okay, the I. All right, so we go ahead and we just click save, and it's going to save my file. It's going to give me these options. Do not change any of the options. The presets that are there are the defaults that go with that computer. Your file should open just fine. If you start messing with some of these things, you're going to start unembedding profiles and not retaining the transparency, and we don't want any of that, okay? Oh, actually, I want to mention one more thing. In the version of Illustrator, it's going to by default be CS6. The only event in which you might want to change something is if you know that at school you have CS6 and at home you do not have CS6 and you're not able to install the trial because your computer is older for whatever reason. What you want to do is you can select here, you can choose different formats to go back in. And what's important about doing this is that even though you will be able to open up another Illustrator if you, file that's newer in an older version without doing this, you're going to lose things like layers and sometimes your naming conventions, all that type of stuff that you start creating in your layers and your paths. Now, that might not make any sense to you right now, but let me just say that if you do not do this step and you go and you work on an earlier version, you're going to lose a lot of important organizational work that is required for the project that you're going to work hard on. So please, if you are going to be working on a different version at home from what is in the labs, then you want to go in here and select what that version is, and then it'll retain all of your paths and layers and things like that. Okay. Now we're going to leave it back at CS6. We're going to hit OK. And now we have the document, okay? To close the document, you can hit File Close or Command W on a Mac or Control W on a PC. And when you close it, your document will be stored in the save folder inside your file called I led Garcia, don't delete. Now we're going to go ahead and close that. Another reminder is that you want to go ahead and always, you know, what I like to do is I open up the document and I like to go File, Save As, and I do not have a flash drive installed right here right now. But in here, instead of saving it to a save folder, when I plug in my hard drive or my flash drive, I like to select that drive to store it in there instead, okay? Just so that you have a backup. Always back up. It always happens that when you're almost done with the project, you lose a file or someone deletes it and then it's gone, okay? So you would just hit save again and save it somewhere else like your flash drive. Okay, next we want to go back, and I want to show you just how to edit the document setup. That means that once you create this, if you notice that you have the wrong specifications, like really we didn't want an 8 by 10 and say we wanted paper size 8.5 by 11, you would just click here where it says document setup, and you can edit the artboard here. And under Edit the Artboard, you could either manually come in here and change the sizes, but what we're going to do is you'll notice there's a width value here and there's a height value here, and you could just easily change that to 0.5 and 8.5 by 11. And once you want to get out of here, you can go ahead and hit return. Return, you can see the changes being implemented. And if you click on one of the tools, it doesn't matter what tool. I'm just going to click the black arrow here, the selection tool. You'll notice it'll take you out of that document setup. Okay? And that's how you would edit a document after the fact. Okay? This concludes how to create a new document, how to adjust the settings, how to save, and how to modify the document setup after the document has been created. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact me. My telephone number is 808-343-9565. My email address is iled@hawaii.edu.